Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya, 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 Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya, 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 Namah. Shivaya, 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 Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Shivaya, 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 Namah.
Namaste. Welcome to the Advaita channel. I'm Bhagavati, and today I continue reading from Annamalai Swami, Final Thoughts, Chapter 4. Namaste Atma. Namaste Jerome. Namaste Adam. Namaste Priya. Namaste Jen. Namaste Shivani. Those listening for the first time, Annamalai Swami was a direct disciple of Sri Ramana Maharishi. He worked for many years, around 12 years, at the ashram, helping construct Ramana's ashram, and who was sent away by Ramana to meditate to the outer bounds. But Ramana continued to visit him throughout this time, although he wasn't permitted to go and visit Ramana. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Annamalai Swami. Today I am going to tell you a story I once heard. A rich man lived in a village. From his youth till his old age, he had spent all his time accumulating wealth. He owned many houses and vast tracts of land. As his material wealth increased, his ego expanded with it. He enjoyed boasting about his wealth. One day, as he was sitting in front of his house with a stick in his hand, a poor man who was known to be a little stupid passed by. "Why are you holding that stick in your hand?" he asked. The rich man decided to have some fun with him. "It's a special stick," he replied. "It has to be given to it. This stick is passed from person to person, and each person who receives it must pass it on to someone who is more stupid than he is." Who would we pass it to? Giving him the stick, he continued, "Now it is your turn to own it. You must keep it with you until you find someone who is an even bigger idiot than you." The poor man humbly accepted the stick and began his quest to find someone whom he felt had even less intelligence than he did. Since he was a long way the least intelligent person in the village, he couldn't find anyone to give the stick to. A few weeks later, he heard that the rich man was sick and dying. He went to visit him, partly to pay his last respects, and partly to tell him that he hadn't managed to find anyone to give the stick to. He took his custody of the stick very seriously, and he wanted advice from the rich man on what he should do with it. After some preliminary conversation about the rich man's health and the fate of the stick, the poor man asked the rich man what was going to happen with his money when he died. "I have to leave all my money here," said the rich man. "I don't know where and when I shall be reborn, but I do know that I can't take any money with me. I shall have to start off with nothing again." He relapsed into a glum silence, not relishing the prospect of being parted from his money. The poor man, who had never really considered this aspect of dying before, thought about it for a while, and then came to a conclusion. "You must have the stick," he said, handing it back to her, "because I have suddenly realized that you are an even bigger idiot than I am. Although you have a long life and many opportunities, you have accumulated nothing of value that you can carry forward with you. You have no peace of mind because you are worried about losing your money. And you have accumulated no good karma because you have spent your whole life pursuing selfish ends. In a few days, the piles of money you have amassed will have the same value for you as piles of garbage. The money will have no value for you in your next life. By devoting your entire life to the accumulation of things that will ultimately prove to be of no use, you have demonstrated that you are a worthy recipient of the stick." He placed the stick on the rich man's bed and left. This reminds me of a strange comment a disciple once made about his guru. He called his guru a heap of garbage and referred to himself as a hen. When he was asked about this, he replied, "A hen can always find something good to eat as long as it keeps busy scratching around in the garbage. But effort is required. If the hen stops scratching, the supply of food stops." So here we are, scratching around in this beautiful heap of garbage that Annamalai Swami has left for us. Questioner: I wasn't here yesterday, but I was told that someone asked the following question. I have been following Bhagavan's teachings for many years, but without any benefits. I don't feel any peace. What am I doing wrong? Why am I not getting any results? Annamalai Swami was going to give a long answer. Self-inquiry must be done continuously. It doesn't work if you regard it as a part-time activity. You may be doing something that doesn't hold your interest or attention. So you think, I'll do some self-inquiry instead. This is never going to work. You may 2 steps forward when you practice, but you go 5 steps backwards when you stop your practice and go back to your worldly affairs. You must have a lifelong commitment to establish yourself in the self. Your determination to succeed must be strong and firm, and it should manifest as continuous, not part-time effort. For many lifetimes, you have been immersed in ignorance. You are habituated to it. All your deeply rooted beliefs, all your patterns of behavior, reinforce ignorance and strengthen the hold it has over you. This ignorance is so strong, so deeply enmeshed in all your psychological structures. It takes a massive effort over a long period of time to break free from it. The habits and beliefs that sustain it have to be challenged again and again. Ignorance is ignorance of the self, and to remove it, self-awareness is required. When you come to an awareness of the self, ignorance vanishes. If you don't lose contact with the self, ignorance can never arise. If there is darkness, you remove it by bringing light. Darkness is not something real and substantial that you have to dig out and throw away. Just an absence of light, nothing more. When you let into a dark room, the darkness is suddenly no longer there. It did not vanish gradually or go away piece by piece. It simply ceased to exist when the room became filled with light. This is just an analogy. The self is not like other lights. It is not an object that you either see or don't see. It is there all the time, shining as your own reality. If you refuse to acknowledge its existence, if you refuse to believe that it is there, you yourself into an imaginary darkness. It is not a real darkness. It is just your own willful refusal to acknowledge that you are light itself. This self-inflicted ignorance is the darkness that has to be banished by the light of self-awareness. We have repeatedly turned within and become one with it. Bhagavan spoke about turning inwards to the face of the self. That is all that is needed. If we look outwards, we become entangled with objects, and we lose awareness of the self shining within us. But when, by repeated practice, we gain the strength to keep our focus on the self within, we become one. Darkness of self-ignorance. Then, we to live in this false and unreal body. We abide in an ocean of bliss that never fades or diminishes. This happens because lifetimes of wrong and ignorant thinking have made it impossible for most of us to focus intently and regularly on the self within. If you leave your house and start walking away from it, and if you continue this habit over many lives, you will probably be a long, long way from home when you finally decide that you have had enough and that you want to go back to the place from where you have started. Don't be discouraged by the length of the journey, and don't slacken in your efforts to get home. Turn 180 degrees to face the source of your outward journey, and keep moving back to where you started. Ignore pain, ignore the discomfort and the frustration of seeming not to get anywhere. Keep moving back to your source. Don't let anything distract you on the way. Be like the river on its journey back to the sea. It doesn't stop or take diversions or decide to flow uphill for a while. It doesn't become distracted. It just moves slowly and steadily back to the place from where its water originated. And when the river dissolves in the ocean, the river is no more. Only ocean remains. Jiva, the individual self, came from Shiva and has to go back to Shiva again. If there is a big charcoal fire and one burning ember jumps out, the fire in the ember will soon go out. To reignite it, you have to put it back into the fire, back into its burning source. And this is why it's good for us to be in satsang. Satsang is this fire, with the embers. Together this fire will roar, it will burn on with untrue. So if we try and go it alone, the fire will go out, the ember will die out. It will just be a piece of charcoal, nothing. No truth. We must stay in the fire of satsang together. In our source, the energy field of truth. There is no happiness in separation. The jiva has no happiness, no contentment or peace, so long as it remains a separate being. The separate being comes from the self. It has to go back there and end there. Only then will there be eternal peace. The energy of the mind comes from the self. In the waking state, the mind functions as a separate entity. In the sleep state, it goes back to the source. Again and again it comes out and goes back. It does this because it doesn't know the truth of what it really is. It is self, and self alone. But its ignorance of this fact makes it miserable. It is this feeling of separateness that gives rise to desires, to suffering, and to unhappiness. Keep the mind in the self. If you can do this, you can live in peace, both while you are awake and also while you are asleep. In deep sleep, all differences are dropped. If you keep the mind in the self during the waking state, there will be no differences. no distinctions. You will see everything as your own self. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Annamalai Swami ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Kunjaji ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Mujiji ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Anantaji ki jai. Om Namo Shivaya. Thank you for joining me, beloveds. See you in satsang.